Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
This is America's Outdoor Talk program.
Are you ready to get rowdy?
Outdoors This Week with your host, Alex Laanger. Alex Laanger. We've got fishing.
Believe me, folks, I have been there, and the fishing has been tremendous.
Hiking.
Adios. Have a nice trip.
Camping.
This is a real adventure.
How do you know?
When you're an experienced woodsman like me, you get a feel for these things.
Oh, really?
Heck, we've even got kayaking.
I'm going to show you kids the time of your life.
We've got all the info you need for a safe and fun day in the sun.
It's a darn good thing we found you when we did. There's something horrible roaming these woods.
And you've got Outdoors This Week. Outdoors This Week. And now, here's your host, Alex Laanger.
Why, thank you, Mr. Announcer. This is indeed Alex Laanger, and we have a very, very, very special treat for you today. I know I always say that, but this time I truly, truly mean it. And don't let the tone of my voice fool you, because today we have a very, very special guest. We have Glen Lau, who is a legend in filmmaking. Glen Lau looks like a mountain man, big, burly, and intimidating, and when he speaks, his voice is raspy and gruff. But beneath his rough exterior and tough as nails exterior, may I say, Glen is actually a highly sensitive and creative artist whose work rivals that of the great masters. His creations aren't portraits or landscapes on canvas, but Glen works in film, and his subject is the black bass. Now in his senior years, he spent most of his adult life capturing images on film, some so fantastic it's hard to imagine how they were ever accomplished. Through underwater strikes and tail-watching jumps, he's mesmerized his viewers with the scenes of America's most beloved game fish, the largemouth bass. His film Big Mouth undoubtedly is his greatest achievement. It's masterful, iconic, and timeless, and it's narrated by Hollywood legend Rod Serling. The film transports the viewer into the underwater world of the largemouth bass, beautifully documenting its habits and rituals. Serling, best known for hosting the original Twilight Zone, adds profound depth to the film's narrative. And like the images he describes, his delivery is captivating and perfect. I'll tell you from personal experience, we aired Big Mouth during a late 70s bass fishing seminar that we had in Lynn, Massachusetts. And Lynn, Massachusetts is not exactly the epicenter of bass fishing. In fact, all of Massachusetts is probably a backwater. His film Big Mouth drew packed audiences every time. You know, people kept going back to see it 3, 4, 5, 6 times. No kidding, Lynn. They really did that. Honestly.
It must have been really good.
It was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, Lynn, you who don't fish would be captivated by Big Mouth.
I think I would. I don't fish, but I think I find it fascinating.
So, for decades, Glen Lau has remained the undisputed master of film and fishing, and he's worked with the best, including Homer Circle, Flip Pallett, Ted Williams, Ray Scott, and countless other fishing icons. He is my guest today for the whole hour. And if that's not good enough, turn the dial right now. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Hang tight. More of America's Outdoor Talk program, Outdoors This Week, after this.
Hi, folks. Ron Linder here for Linder's Angling Edge Television. Seeing it all over the country on Saturdays on WFN. That's a Canadian channel. Also, we're on some Christian channels here and there, peppered across the country, particularly on the Cornerstone Network. We're also, you can watch any of our shows on the web by going to Linder Media. You can see all our 2012 shows on lindermedia.com. Go to the web. They're immediately downloadable and available. Okay, what's happening in Minnesota? Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. The nature fakers are at it. And why? One of the great causes of it, they always can get a lot of money for this, wolves. They delisted the wolf. They put the wolf on the list that you can hunt them. Right now in the Twin Cities, you go through Minneapolis, St. Paul, big billboards, huge billboards, save the wolf, the da-da wolf, don't torture wolves, the da-da-da, all this stuff. Also, articles popping up in the paper, my own paper right here, which I live up in in not a wilderness, but a very rural area. And there was an article in there. Let's not, you could tell that it came from one of these organizations. Let us not ruin our ecotourism, because if we have wolf hunting here, people won't want to come to Minnesota for ecotourism. And I'm trying to figure this out. Who in the world writes this stuff? If you had 1 million people come here on an ecotourism tour, I guarantee you not one of them would ever see a wolf in the wild. If they maybe had one staked out with a chain someplace and driven into the ground that they could use as a fake, or maybe a silhouette of one, you might be able to see something. But you don't see these critters. They're I see them once in a while in an extremely remote area down a river over here there's an army preserve where it's called Fort Ripley, Camp Ripley, and it's a very wild area. Nobody goes there, and occasionally, especially lately, we've been seeing them in fall. In fall, when the deer are moving around, occasionally you'll see 1 or 2. I saw 2 or 3 last year, and that's only in that one area. Most of the time, we don't see them. So ecotourism-wise, this is the biggest bunch of baloney in God's green world. Anyway, they're letting them hunt them. And debates with the use of dogs to hunt wolves, not in Minnesota, but in Wisconsin, which is next door over here. As Wisconsin prepares for its first wolf hunt season, hunting groups will say using dogs to track wolves are essential to success. But animal welfare advocates say the state needs to do more to protect the dogs from the potential deadly confrontation with the wolves. That's probably got some truth to it. So, a Dane County judge, who they got a hold of, who fell for them, temporarily has banned the use of these dogs and will hold a hearing on Friday. This is where the nature fakers, they got these judges all in these places set up. Long time ago, they said you could hunt the wolves. There are plenty of wolves. There are, and I mentioned this before, in the state that I live in, there's lots of them. And if I ever see a wolf in my backyard, and it, by the way, it is not unlikely, but if I do see one with my grandchildren, believe me, I'm dusting them. I ain't calling the Department of Natural Resources. He's getting buried. Oh, it's that fast. They do this out on the farms out here, out west. There's a lot of cattle where they got, heifers, little doggies over there, and these wolves do. There ain't a lot of them, so, it isn't a big deal. There are 100 a year, maybe, that get knocked down by a wolf. And once a wolf gets on a farm and he gets on the herd of cattle, he will stay there. It's free lunch, and they'll stay on them pretty good. Remember, these babies can bring down a moose, and they do. A pack of wolves can bring down a moose. This is why protection is one thing. In my backyard, if there's anything, I don't want to pay a $1 zillion fine because I'm protecting my own land. And the people in the cities, the nature fakers, don't understand this. They simply do not. Well, that's it for now from Ron Linder. See you later, folks.
Mule deer coming up on Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Have you ever wanted to disappear into the woods? Have you ever wanted to tie your own flies, but never taken the time? Have you ever wanted to speak turkey? Then you belong at Bass Pro Shops. Every week, we offer free skills workshops to help you get started. See the store or go to BassPro.com for more information. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
Mule deer are big, wary, and challenging to hunt, and the scenery makes it even more worthwhile. Hunting muleys is a completely different experience from hunting whitetails. You're going to put a lot of miles on your boots, and mule deer territory is rough country. If you're not prepared for it, you're going to spend a lot of time resting, not hunting. In September, muleys tend to be in the higher elevations. Bucks are in bachelor groups this time of year, and when you see one buck, there are often several more with them, so be patient before pulling the trigger. On warmer days, bucks will typically bed on shady slopes and will hold to any available cover in desolate areas. The rut takes off in early November and continues throughout the month. As bucks begin to seek out does and snow begins to build up in higher elevations, they move into the foothills and lower areas. Now, if you love whitetail hunting, you owe it to yourself to try hunting muleys at least one time. I'm Larry Whiteley, and this is Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Why, thank you, Larry, very much. And we have Larry here at this time every single week. And my special guest today, he looks like a mountain man. He's big, burly, and intimidating. And when he speaks, his voice is raspy and gruff. But don't let that fool you. Beneath his rough exterior, Glen Lau is actually a highly sensitive and creative artist whose work rivals that of the great masters. However, his masterpieces aren't portraits or landscapes painted on canvas. Glen works in film, and his subject is a black bass. First of all, Glen, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here.
And last time I saw you, you were justifiably being inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. I had the honor of sitting at your table with you, your honored guest, and your lovely wife, Marianne. So for that, I thank you. And it all started back in the late 50s, right? When you won the King of Ohio Fishing Tournament. Tell me how that went.
1958, I had worked as a miner, putting in pipe underneath the ground, 40 feet down.
So where were you a sandhog? What part of the world?
In Toledo, Ohio.
Okay, and what was the project?
Well, they were putting in a sewer pipe, and you had to go down like 40 feet and then dig back in 400 feet and then set pipe. And I earned enough money to buy a boat, and I said at that time, that's the last time I'm ever working for anyone. So I went up to Lake Erie, Channel Grove, and started guiding. And my fee was, at a 16-foot boat, my fee was $25 for one person and $50 for two people.
Yeah.
And I found out about the King of Ohio Fishing Tournament when it was half over and decided I was going to try and see what I could do. And in 6 weeks, I caught 2,900 pounds of fish and won the contest, which was a 2-week trip to Florida, and got to fish with Joe Brooks and Stu App and, very famous people in the fishing world. When I came back, Irwin Bauer, the famous writer, sort of took me under his wing there, and he would send me out to do photographs of different things like the longest coon hunt and catching smallmouth bass on small rigs and different things like that. And it wasn't long. I was doing films for people up in the Arctic and down in Latin America, and just kept going until in 1969, I went to work for Shakespeare. I was called the Shakespeare Guide, and my job was going out on Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, and showing people how to catch fish, mainly salmon. And after that, 1971, I moved to Key West, and I thought I was going to do some work down there, but at 2 o'clock the tide was high out around Cosgrove, and I had to be there. And at 12 o'clock the next day it was good down around Pelican Key, and so I had to be there. And I never did get any work done, but on my way back I stopped to see a famous person that I had been in touch with for years, and His name's Homer Circle and Uncle Homer Circle.
Right.
And we talked about a film called The Bassin Man. And while I was there, he got me permission to go into Silver Spring. And I spent 2 weeks there and decided I was going to make a film on bass, on the life cycle of the bass. And I did spend 18 months underwater. And we had Rod Serling do the narration. And even today, I mean, we sell a lot of big mouth tapes.
Let me hold you right there. We got to take a break. And then would you come back and finish the story, please, about Rod Serling? I want to hear about Rod Serling, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back with the legendary Glen Lau himself.
More of America's favorite outdoor talk program, Outdoors This Week, after these messages.
Wow! Woo. Hold on to that, and that's a good one since 1984. Tight Lines with Sammy Lee.
She's young, talented, very well educated, and one of the best hunters and anglers to come along in years. She's Larissa Switlick. Hello, this is Sammy Lee. In just a moment, I'll introduce you to this dynamo whose new television show will be a must-see in 2013. But first, this message.
Your attention, please.
Coming soon. Coming soon. Colors. Colors that will change. Colors that will change your fishing forever. The most revolutionary lures ever made. Only from Bleeding Belly's Lure Company. Coming soon.
When I first heard about Larissa Switlick, I became fascinated. Why? Well, here's a young lady who had never fished or hunted in her entire life. But after getting her master's degree in accounting, Larissa decided that the boring life in a New York City accounting firm was not for her. No, sir. She quit her job, packed her bags, and headed to the outback of Australia to go walkabout for 6 months. But you know, something strange occurred when she discovered that she truly loved the thrill of the hunt and a tug on her line.
I've always wanted to go to Australia, New Zealand, and I knew if I was going to go, since it was such a long flight, I wanted to stay at least 2 months. And that was kind of a little bit of my graduation gift. Because I love to travel, and it just turned out to be the perfect timing. I know I had a lot of friends who said, oh, if you wait, next year or this summer, I could go with you, but I was free then, and that was my time, so I went by myself, and that's one thing, the way I live is I never wait around for someone or something to do, to go out for it. If I want to do it, I'm going to go. I don't care if I'm by myself, and that really changed my life pretty much, that trip.
Pretty amazing, eh? Folks, I'll continue introducing you to the newest TV fishing and hunting hostess next time, so I hope you'll join me. I'm Sammy Lee, and until next time, Tight Lines.
Tight Lines, brought to you by SpectraBurst, the ultimate color-changing technology. HuntMate, the best hunting app for your iPhone. By UFP, America's leading maker of brake systems for boat trailers. And by Bleeding Belly's Lures, the bait that actually changes color.
Follow Tight Lines on Twitter at www.twitter.com/TightLinesRadio.
Thanks, Sammy Lee. And the last time I saw Sammy in person was when he was the master of ceremonies inducting Glen Lau into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Glen is my guest for this hour, and we were just in the middle of a conversation where Glen was telling me about when he first arrived at Silver Springs, Florida. That's near his home of Ocala, where he resides today. Did Uncle Homer first introduce you to Silver Springs?
Yes, he did. And I spent 2 weeks there and decided I was going to do a film on bass, on the life cycle of the bass. And went home to Ohio and got all my equipment and came back and then spent 18 months, all but 3 days underwater, studying the bass. And we discovered some things that weren't known at the time. And the film went on to win international awards. And even today, I mean, we sell a lot of Big Mouth. And then another film that I did called Big Mouth Forever.
Right.
Big Mouth is actually about the life cycle of the bass. And Big Mouth Forever is how to find them and how to catch them. And they're both about 40 minutes long. And they can, if people are interested, they could go to Glen, Glen, Lau, Lau.com and find the tapes. They're on sale there. And then Homer and I did another tape called Big Mouth 35, which is about the 35th anniversary of Big Mouth. And they interviewed Homer and myself about all the problems that we went through filming the original Big Mouth. There were times when we were working 20 hours a day, and finally Homer said, I have to go to South America next week, and we've got to finish up. And so we spent a lot of time, and it took me 6 months to edit it, and then Parker Bauer, Erwin Bauer's son, wrote the script, which was 19 minutes long, right. And he took it to California, and we had Rod Serling do the narration, and Rod said it was one of the best scripts that he had ever worked with.
If I may interrupt your train of thought here, we ran Big Mouth. We had a bass show up in Lynn, Massachusetts, in the mid 1970s, and we showed that film, and it was amazing. Everybody that was in a bass club wanted to see it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I mean, that was the one film that we underestimated the interest in. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
What were the 2 or 3 new things that you discovered in filming Big Mouth?
Well, one of them was during the spawning, it had always been written that the female leads, but she never does. She's always there for at least 24 hours after the eggs are laid. But I've seen her stay around, and she's off in the distance, but I've seen her stay around for 5 days, and if the male gets taken off the bed, she moves in to protect the egg.
Mama is always there watching.
Yes. And then, the lure going through the water and the fish coming up and grabbing it, spitting it out, grabbing it again. Homer said it changed his fishing habits because he never felt that. He felt a little bump.
He was
once he got onto it. Anytime he'd feel a little tick on his rod, he would set the hook, and it improved his fishing tremendously. And most of the fishermen picked up on that. So that was a big thing. To discover that fish can come up and grab a lure while it's moving and move with it and spit it out.
Now he was fishing a crankbait with a tight line, if I recall. And the bass came up, grabbed the crankbait, blew it out, grabbed it again, and he never knew he had anything.
That's right. But he did feel a little tick on there.
Right.
And what that told him is anytime he feels a slight difference in his rod, he'd set the hook and start catching a lot more fish.
That was the one eye-opener that I recall everybody talking about after seeing Big Mouth. You got to set your hook on anything even remotely feels unnatural.
That's right.
Wow. You got about 2 minutes left in the segment. After the segment, if you could come back, please, for another segment, give us the one more insight that you learned from Big Mouth.
Well, when I was putting down ideas for Big Mouth, I wrote out 67 different things that I wanted to incorporate, and I was able to do 15 of them in Big Mouth.
Wow.
And so for 3 years, I worked on Big Mouth Forever, which is how to find fish, where they're located, and then how to catch them. And that film won endless awards, national and international awards. And probably the best thing that the viewer gets out of that is where these fish are located.
All right, we got to take a break right now, and when we come back, we'll finish up, all right?
All right.
All right, stay with us, folks. We'll be right back with the legendary Glen Lau himself.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Don't change that dial. Alex will be right back with more of Outdoors This Week after these messages.
When deer season opens up and suddenly the woods are invaded by humans, how do deer respond, especially the bigger, older bucks? Do they change their movement patterns? Do they go nocturnal? Do they head into the nearest thicket and lay up? I'm Wade Bourne, and this is Wired to Hunt Radio. Today, some interesting findings from a deer research study in Oklahoma.
Stay tuned for more Wired to Hunt Radio.
Reliable, durable, and fun to shoot are just a few of the ways people describe their experiences with the M&P Pistol Series from Smith & Wesson. Available in multiple calibers and frame sizes, these lightweight, high-strength polymer pistols are fine-tuned machines both inside and out, designed to meet the needs of law enforcement pros and recreational shooters alike. The M&P Series has you covered no matter your flavor. To learn more about the M&P Pistol Series, visit www.smith-wesson.com. With the mission to promote, protect, and preserve hunting in the shooting sports, the National Shooting Sports Foundation wants to help you better enjoy your sports. Take a lesson from champion pistol shooter Doug Koenig. Fine-tune your shotgun skills with top instructor Gil Ash, or learn how to sight in your rifle in just 2 shots. You'll find all the information you need to shoot better at nssf.org/videos. Watch and learn with NSSF at nssf.org/videos.
This is Wired to Hunt Radio.
Yesterday, Dr. Steve Damaris from Mississippi State University told about a deer research study he conducted in Oklahoma. Dr. Damaris outfitted a number of older bucks with GPS collars, and then he tracked their movements during this state's 13-day firearms season to see how they responded to hunter pressure when the season kicked in. Dr. Damaris told me he'd expected the mature bucks to move less and lay up more, but he got a surprising result.
They didn't actually change their movement rate. The amount of distance they moved didn't change, but the complexity of the movement paths changed. They became much more complex. They moved as far, but in a smaller area. They decreased the area of movement. So they were moving, taking as many steps moving, but they were moving around more in circles and in a smaller area after the hunting season started and at the higher hunter densities. The lower density and the control population that didn't have hunters, they were walking more in straight lines across a larger area of land compared to the bucks on the heavily hunted area. And I would have thought that, well, they might become cryptic during the day but come out at night. Not the case. The deer didn't discriminate very much between day and night during the season.
Dr. Damaris continued that when he conducted this study, he saw no evidence of bucks going nocturnal. They just stayed a little closer to home. And that's today's Wired to Hunt Radio. I'm Wade Bourne saying thanks for listening. Get outside.
Thanks a lot, Wade. And we're here today with Glen Lau, who is the legendary filmmaker of Big Mouth, which is, if you're going to pick one landmark in on the bass fishing landscape of a film, it's really kind of the only one that comes to mind. And Glen is a great documentary filmmaker, and he's a great student of bass fishing.
And Alex, a great friend of yours. You're a great friend of mine.
Thank you for the flowers, as they say in another country. Glen, Homer Circle was very important in your life, and I mean, so much is said about Homer since its passing. What do you think was his greatest contribution to the world of fishing?
Well, you know, I inherited all his stuff, and going through it, he wasn't just a fisherman. He affected literally hundreds and hundreds of people's lives. People that would lose a job, and they'd talk to Homer, and Homer would say, "That's the best thing that ever happened to you. You know, you're going to go on and do great things." And we received, hundreds of letters from people who told their story about how the effects that Homer had on them, not as a fisherman, but as a wonderful individual that loved people. And he, you know, I had him fishing the Sunday before he passed away. And we went out, got there about 6 o'clock. He sat looking up, saying, "Look at how blue that sky is. That's the most beautiful blue I've ever seen. And look, there's a cloud, looks like a shark." And then he'd say, "You know, you're so lucky to be able to fish in a place like this." Fishing wasn't that important to him when he was 97 years old. It was the friendship we had, and every day we told each other we loved each other, and it was just a wonderful thing to be able to be with him and share things with him.
You kind of became his son, didn't you?
Yes.
Did he have any children?
Oh, yeah, he had a daughter.
Yeah.
And her name is Judy.
Yeah.
And she's, Homer was 97 when he passed away, and Judy is 70.
Wow.
And he had several grandchildren.
Maybe you're the son he never had.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think so.
Well, he was an amazing man, and I'll always treasure the letter he sent to me personally, which he gave me encouragement, and that was before the flying lure was breaking and became the world's biggest selling lure. That's how we got to know each other, was through the lure. So,
yes.
So, Glen, you're developing a new lure.
I can tell your audience where they can. I've been putting down a lot of things on paper, and we started a new website. It's called Bass-Fishing-Wisdom, Bass Fishing Wisdom, and there's endless stuff in there that I've decided to share with people. And I think if they go to Google and get that up, that they'll find a lot of really interesting stuff that will help them catch fish.
Glen, I hate to say it, but we're almost out of time. If people want to get a hold of you, what should they do?
Well, I can be reached at Glen Lau, one N on Glen Lau, .com if they want to send me a notice or a request, or I can be reached at a phone number, which would be 352-361-7616.
Glen, I hate to say it. It's like you. I had 100 questions. We only covered about 10 of them. So that's an excuse to have you back again and again. Glen Lau, thank you very much for everything you've done for bass fishing, and thank you for being here with us today.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, Glenn, and say hello to your lovely wife, Marianne, please. And
I will.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. And, folks, we'll be back with you next time on Outdoors This Week. Bye-bye.
Alex Laanger, Outdoors This Week.